What's up, everybody? I hope you're ready for the final golf major of the year. Welcome to another WST Winners segment presented by our friends at CoolBet here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Andrew Patterson, going to bring in Pat Gregoire in just a minute and dive into our best bets and favorite picks for the Open Championship, which begins tomorrow at CoolBet. Now, all of our betting content is now going to be on a separate feed for podcast listeners. So make sure to subscribe. We'll have a link in the description. You can also just search WST Winners wherever you get your favorite podcast feeds like Winnipeg Sports Talk, and make sure you subscribe. It'll be a little lighter over the course of the next month, but you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed when we dive into weekly NFL picks and so much more beginning in NFL season, of course, leading into a ton of NHL and hockey content here on WST as well. Without further ado, let's get ready for the Open Championship and welcome in my guy, Pat Gregoire. P. Greggy, one of the hottest golf pickers this year. I mean, a run at one point of 3 wins in 4 weeks, including that bomb of Aldrich Poitgeiter. Patty, only one more shot at glory for the majors, and it's this week in Northern Ireland at Royal Portrush. How are you?
Doing good, Huss. This is always one of my favorite weekends of the year. It's a bit sad, though. Like, we're only halfway through July, and the golf season, I don't want to say is coming to an end because we've got the playoff coming up. And then, of course, your and my favorite, or one of our favorite events, the Ryder Cup, also comes into the fall. But things really start to wind down here. So, I mean, we're never going to change the major schedule. It just would be nice if we had something a little more to look forward during August.
Well, the funny thing is that you say that is that, you know, they did change the schedule. Like the one time I went to the PGA Championship, it was in early August. Now, it was also about 112 degrees Fahrenheit on the golf course in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I understand why they did change things up. But to your point, this is our last opportunity to get a piece of a major winner. And we go over to the pond, 153rd Open Championship. And this time the tourney returns to Northern Ireland, Royal Portrush, where the Irish Bear, Shane Lowry, won in 2019. Listen, before we dive into the picks, and we'll start off with sort of the top tier and then get into some other things we like. Patty, what do we need to know about Royal Portrush? All open courses are not created the same. They're all very interesting. They're all very challenging. What do we need to know about the course and what that might mean for the type of player that could do very well on Sunday?
A little fun fact, you mentioned 2019. Before that, this place hadn't been in the rotation for the Open since the 50s. And it's actually the only golf course in the rotation for the Open that's not in the mainland of Great Britain. That's how great this course is. That's how well received it was when it came back in 2019. And a lot of the players are excited to be back. The folks in Northern Ireland are excited to see this tournament once again. But it's very similar to what we see with a lot of these open courses, the link style course. It is on the coast, so weather certainly going to play a factor. That's something that when you're making your matchup bets, or even when you're looking at some of your pre-tournament bets, make sure you look at the weather to see if that's going to play a factor, because when the wind gets whirling, when you get rain, this golf course plays completely different. But let's say the weather is just okay. It's normal open weather. You've got to be accurate. You don't need to match it off the course. This is actually a pretty short course in all things relative to most open courses, but there is a lot of runoffs on the fairway. So you're going to see some guys hit the fairway, and unfortunately it's going to roll off into some very unforgiving roughs. The metrics that I'm really looking at is driver accuracy, as we do at almost every golf course and every tournament, strokes gained approach. But the one thing here is the undulated greens, the slow greens. We got to look at golfers that can putt on these slow greens, that can make some of these lag putts, that can find a way not to three putt, to avoid blowing up with a bogey or a double bogey. So those are the main metrics that I'm looking at for this year's Open.
Let me just ask you about the putting. And I, for a while, I think I've thought that. But again, you mentioned, I mean, these ain't PGA Tour greens. These are longer, they're shaggier. I mean, completely different. And in a lot of ways, because of that, I kind of find that the putting becomes more of a wash here. Like, I think I have more confidence in great ball strikers that sometimes have an issue with putting on the PGA Tour going over here, because in some ways, at times it seems like putting is the great equalizer. Now, if guys are sinking 120 footers or, making bombs, listen, that's huge, and you'll gain on your opponents. But would you sort of agree that the great putters don't necessarily have a massive advantage once we get across the pond to an event like this?
I certainly think it becomes, like you said, more neutralized. It's still super important.
You got to drop them.
You have to drop them. And I mean, it's all a part of the game. That's how you win golf tournaments. You got to find a way. But I do agree. I wouldn't just go to strokes gained putting and sort by top to bottom and pick my guys at the top. I think you got to find guys that have played well at link styles courses, that guys that have played well with these shaggier greens. So those are things that you got to look into when it comes from putting. A very unique thing that Pat Mayo, friend of the program, pointed out as well is when you look at the last time we were here in 2019, take a look at the leaderboard with Shane Lowry at the top. It looks exactly what you would look at for the Florida swing. A lot of the guys that play well in Florida, take a look at the Cognizant Classic. There's a lot of course correlation with PGA National. So that's one thing that I looked at as well. So that's something that you can look, like a guy like Tommy Fleetwood. Yes, he hasn't won here, hasn't won in America, but he's a guy that always is near the top. Look at the guy who won it here back in 2019, Shane Lowry. He plays well on the Florida swing. Russell Henley, a very popular pick this week as well. He is a guy that does well at the Florida swing. So something that I don't know, Pat Mayo does a great job. Go to his channel, really does a good job breaking it down. We've got a CoolBet, a CoolBet reel of him breaking it down as well. So take a look there. There are some correlations, but hey, this is the other thing you got to take in advantage. A lot of those Florida swings, Rory ain't playing every week. Scottie ain't playing every week. You don't have the live guys playing there. The field is a lot tougher here than, let's say, the Cognizant Classic.
Well, yeah. Well, listen, I've often thought that the Cognizant Classic was major-esque. So, I mean, let's face it, this is just like part two.
It's the sixth major.
Let's get to the board with the odds over at CoolBet. And let me just tell you, folks, obviously, I've been playing here for a long time. I've been comparing some of these numbers to other things that are out in the market. Before you place a bet, if you're working at a number of different books, I can almost guarantee you that in most cases, you're getting a much better number at CoolBet. And of course, you do have the opportunity. One of your favorite bet, 30% win boost. We're going to use those on a couple of exotics later on. So we'll let you know where we're going to be putting that 30% win boost a little bit later on. But let's start it off with the top tier. The favorites right now, outright to win. Your favorite is Scottie Scheffler at plus 550. I've seen that number like less than 450 at other books. And then Rory McIlroy at plus 650. Again, best in the market right now as far as I've seen. Big gap between those two. We get it. And it's Rombo. John Rahm at 12-1. And then another big gap that, like, outside of those top three, Bryson DeChambeau, Shane Lowry, Xander Schauffele next on the board at 24-1. We've also got Tommy Fleetwood at 25. Ludwig Oberg at 27, along with Tyrrell Hatton, who's quite a popular pick this week. And then Victor Hovland and Robert McIntyre at 30, and Colin Morikawa at 32. That will be the gap. Matthew Fitzpatrick's at 45 right now. We'll kind of look at him more in the contenders tier. But Patty, between Scottie at plus 550 and Colin Morikawa at 32, it's tough to have too many of these guys, although I think you can argue there's some pretty good numbers on the players not named Scottie or Rory, although those are very good in comparison to what's available. Who of the top dogs, who are your biggest contenders, and who's getting a little piece of your action?
Listen, if you told me that Scottie Scheffler or Rory McIlroy won this thing, I would not be surprised. Heck, why would you be surprised? They're the two best golfers on the planet. You talked about the putting. Well, Scottie Scheffler's worst part of his game is putting. You kind of neutralize it there. Rory McIlroy, I mean, it is in his backyard. He wants to finish off his major season. You know how big that Masters victory was. Well, couldn't it be better by him winning at his home country at Portrush? Would be a great story. But I'm sorry, I'm not betting them at those numbers. Those would be guys that after, especially a guy like Rory, I mean, Scottie's shown the capabilities as well. A guy like those guys, if they start out slow on Thursday, maybe think about a live bet. Maybe think of looking at the odds where they are. They might not move that much. So you might have to actually wait after Friday going into the weekend. That's maybe when you jump on them. Maybe use your 30% boost. It's not what I'm going to do, though. I'm going to start, though, at numero 3 how do you even say 3 in Spanish is actually the way I should be saying it, because Jon Rahm, 12-1. I think he is as good as a bet when it comes to the Open without winning the thing. I saw this stat earlier this week and it actually blew my mind. Since 2019, where he finished T11 here at Portrush, it was actually his second worst finish at the Open during that stretch. He's finished T3, T2, and T7 over that span. He has some great form coming into it, and say what you will about live golf and the difficulty of the fields, but he finished solo 2 at Andaluca at his home tournament, T11 in Dallas. And let's not forget, he finished that T7 at the US Open at a very difficult golf course as well. So, you know, in fact, he's actually finished inside the top 20 in all 3 majors so far this year with 2 top 10s. He might be having the best major season out of all of them. Better than Rory, better than Scottie. The only thing that's missing is the victory. And I think with Rahm here, Huss, at 12-1, that would be a fantastic bet if you're going to look at one of the top dogs.
What would mean more to him, winning the Open or finally winning an event on the Live Tour? We'll see. It's crazy that Rahm hasn't won there yet, to be perfectly honest, because you're right. Plays well everywhere else, just hasn't been able to win on a tour that, frankly, the guy should probably be winning every third week. Listen, I'm with you. I'm not going to touch on Scottie or Rory. However, I should point this out. If you go to player specials, you can bet the field without Scheffler or McIlroy. Essentially, if Rory or Scottie wins, it's next man up. And the easiest way to compute this, it's basically 2/3 of what the odds are on the board. So, for instance, Jon Rahm is 12-1 to win the tournament. He's 8-1 without Scheffler or McIlroy. Shane Lowry, 24-1 to win the tournament, 16-1 without Scheffler or McIlroy. So if you are nervous about one of those guys running away with it, but you can't stomach the number, check that market. It is under player specials. Pat, for me, as I mentioned, I'm going to pass Scheffler and McIlroy, and I'm passing on Jon Rahm too. You make some good points. I just don't think that he's played consistently enough at high enough a level on the Live Tour, although he's been pretty good in the majors, to stomach a number that is half of what you get for the DeChambeaus, the Lowrys. And my pick for this event, my best bet, I'm going last year, Xander Schauffele went back-to-back with majors. How about back-to-back years with the Claret Jug as the Open champion? Xander has been consistent this year. He's been good. He just hasn't had that signature week. And I'm feeling that it comes at a place where he broke out last year and really announced not only was he over the hump and finally became a major winner, but now a multiple major winner. If you look at what Xander's done so far this year, he has been right there in all of the majors. He finished tied for 8th at the Masters. He finished T12 at the US Open and wasn't great at the PGA Championship. He was T28, but again, he's always seemingly there. And maybe most importantly, when we're thinking about tomorrow, was right there in the Genesis Scottish Open as well. I think he's feeling comfortable going in. I think he's a little bit off the radar. And to be honest, I think his number should be closer to Jon Rahm than it should be the guys that he is in the loop with right now. So 24-1, I'm on Xander Schauffele to win this tournament. The only other player, and listen, I know my guy Feinberg is on Hovland at 30-1. I have not yet done it, but I probably will. Just a FOMO bet more than anything. Throw a little something on Ludwig. We've been on Oberg quite a bit this year. He's uber talented, and I do think a breakout is coming at some point. The recent form hasn't been quite as good as it had been earlier in the year, and I think that's why we're seeing him at 27. But it would kill me if he went and won his first major. And after all the support that he's had, we weren't on him. So that is a guy that I am that I'm thinking about. But let's move.
Hold on, Huss, because I do have one more in that range.
Fire away.
And it is Victor Hovland. And it should come as no surprise. I've been on Hovland a lot over the years with you. You've been on him as well. But I feel like it's crazy to say with how well that he's played over the last, few years. This might not be his best stretch of golf, but I feel like this is his best chance to finally break through. It's been a bit of a weird up and down year. Like he's been battling some confidence issues. For a guy that's battling confidence issues, man, he's already got a win at the Valspar. He contended at Oakmont, finishing a 3rd at the US Open. He's right there, Huss, man. But if you talk to him, you listen to his press conferences, you'd think this guy was missing cut after cut.
It's so crazy, man. No one believes in Victor Hovland less right now, seemingly, than Victor Hovland.
I know.
And like the win at the Valspar, for my money, was the most. I mean, listen, we've had some long shot winners, and JJ Spawn won a major. But that tournament, from where he was, and then winning the Valspar, just goes to show that a guy with the talent that Victor Hovland has can pop at any time. And no better time to do it than a major championship.
Exactly. And we know his struggles like with the short game, but you mentioned it with the putting gets neutralized. These greens here, like he can just whip out the old Texas wedge and putt a lot of these instead of trying to chip. And what's an easy way to not worry about your short game is just putting it close to the hole. And outside of Scottie Scheffler, nobody has been striping their irons better than Victor Hovland in the last 24 rounds. He's second in strokes gained approach. So you know what? You close your eyes, you picture come Sunday, I could see Big Vic Hovland hoisting that claret jug and finally breaking through. I can feel it. He might not believe it, but you know who can? I can, Us. I can believe it.
I'm just looking at Hovland's year. I mean, that win at the Valspar was so crazy. He had missed the cut at the Genesis at Torrey. He missed the cut at Arnold Palmer's event at Bay Hill. He shot 80 in the first round of the Players and missed the cut. And then he comes back and wins the Valspar. Just crazy. So, listen, there'd be a lot of happy people. I'm not on Vic, but if I find him in the mix, I may have to touch on him live because we'll definitely want to have a piece of Victor Hovland. Moving on to this next tier of players. And we'll kind of call these guys the contenders, but outside. Some really good numbers, some good value plays in here. Started off by Matthew Fitzpatrick at 45-1. Sepp Straka, a guy that has had a monster year. And, some of those ones where you say, hey, we're like, well, what have previous winners done? They've won an event on tour. They've done this and that. Straka's in all of these groups.
Yep.
He has the body of work that does make him a contender. He's at 55 to 1 right now. And there is, if you go into the exclusives, if you're thinking about Sepp, I wasn't sure whether I was going to be on him. But then when I saw the Pat Mayo boost to 65 to 1, which again is beyond any, I've seen him at 40s out there right now. You can get him 65 to 1 outside of the, if you're going to make a bigger bet, it'll be 50 to 1, but you can get what you can get in the exclusives, and you'll see it right there, the PMA weekly boost. So you've got Fitz at 45, Sepp at 55, Neiman and JT at 60, Scottish Open champion Chris Gotterup, who had that monster win last weekend, he's at 65, and then a group of 66s, including Patrick Cantlay, Russell Henley, Brooks Koepka, Justin Rose, and Jordan Spieth. 80s on Corey Connors and Adam Scott. 85 on Hideki Matsuyama. 90 to 1 on Cam Smith, former Open champion. How the mighty have fallen. Absolutely nuts. And then everybody else 100 to 1 or larger. This is always my favorite area to pick. Guys that you know can win, have won before. In between 45 and 90, I've got a few picks here, Pat. I'll start it off with Matthew Fitzpatrick. Fitz is a former major champion. I really like the way he was looking in Scotland last week. He hasn't actually been as good as he maybe had in previous years, but I feel like he's got the game coming back to Europe where he grew up playing, although he's an English guy, Northern Ireland, but tons of experience there. And recent form looks good. So I didn't mind starting off the picks in this category with a little bit of Matthew Fitzpatrick. And I'll go right to the other guy. I mentioned Sepp Straka. I've got a 10 spot on there on the PMA Weekly Boost. But a guy that not a lot of people are talking about, I think has had a big comeback year, and a player that I do believe will win a claret jug before he's done, is Justin Thomas. And Justin Thomas at 60 to 1 it is just such a good number. I was stunned that that's what's being hung on him right now. So often these are the great value plays. I mean, you can make an argument for the guy who should be there on Sunday. And the bottom line is your money goes a heck of a lot further. So I'm starting this group off with Matthew Fitzpatrick at 45 and then JT at 60. You like anyone else on the card for you in between 40 and the hundreds?
Well, you mentioned Straka. I'm on him as well, 50 to 1 for his regular number. But if you can get the Pat Mayo weekly boost, that's an absolute no-brainer. You mentioned all the, the categories that make him a great option here. The thing that I just love about him is how accurate he is off the tee. I think that's just so apparent when it comes to this golf course. You got to be accurate. And I just think he's a perfect course fit. Jealous of Pat Mayo. He got him at like 100 to 1 at CoolBet a couple of months ago, down to 50 to 1. I got him earlier in the week. Last week, I guess it would have been at 65 to 1 before that boost. So not too.
He's 55, by the way. He's 55 right
55,
now with CoolBet. Yeah. And again, you can get your first 10 in on the PME boost at 65 to 1. Yeah. That is in the exclusive. But again, league leading or a market leading number on Sepp Straka, a player that a lot of people are in after the great year that he's had. Who else are you liking?
I don't know if this technically counts as a exotic bet or if not, but it's without the Scheffler McIlroy. I'd probably still, if I didn't have already a million bets out there, I probably would have bet him at his normal number, but 55 to 1, excuse me, Russell Henley. Again, another great course fit, accurate driver, a guy that's great with the long irons and can putt really well on these slow surfaces. So I like him at 55 to 1, although it seems like in the industry right now, he might be the most tip better, which kind of scares me. Although a lot of these chalky picks this year have come to fruition. I've seen a lot of winners out on Twitter this year. So this might be actually a good thing. And then a guy that I bet earlier in the year. So I have a worse number, and this is what happens, folks. This is the beauty, but also the worst thing about golf betting. When you bet these majors throughout the year, sometimes you can get a great number, like that Straka, 100-1. And sometimes you can be a sucker like me and have a Justin Rose bet at 45-1 instead of 66-1 now. But hey, I've got the bet, and at 66-1, I would take it. I'll be fine with my 45-1 as well. But you know what? His recent form, as of up until last week, I was like, man, I might as well burn this ticket up. But you know, when you look at what he was able to do once he got to this side of the pond, he really started to look like the Justin Rose that we saw at the start of this major season when he lost in a playoff to Rory. He gained strokes on every single major category. He finished inside the top 20 last time. This was at Portrush. T2 at Troon last year. You want to talk about a veteran, a guy that knows what it takes to win, an Open and at a course that is link style. It's Rosie to do it. So when I saw that he got all the way up at 66-1, I figured that would be a great bet to get there. So Henley and Rose, two guys in this category that I'm taking a stab at.
All right. As we transition to the long shots, a few bombs for us to throw on the card. I kind of feel like this guy is still more of a bomb than maybe the Contenders, although the number's a little bit lower. But I'm getting a piece of Corey Connors at 80-1. And, you kind of laid it out when we were talking about Royal Portrush, Pat, in that you don't necessarily need to be going toe-to-toe with Bryson DeChambeau or a Puttgeit or off the tee. You need to be a great ball striker. Your approach game needs to be good. And Corey Connors historically has at times been killed by his putter. And I do think that the nature of these courses will, give him an opportunity to be at least more on a level with most of the players. And who knows? I mean, maybe this can be an advantage for him as opposed to something that he's got to make up right now. So Corey Connors at 81 is going to get a piece. But as far as this group of 100-1 or over, before I had listened to any research, I went in and, I had a couple picks that I wanted to get on. Xander Schauffele was one of them. The other one was Ryan Fox. And CoolBet right now has Fox at 100-1. I'll be honest, I thought that would be more like the 66s, like with Russell Henley. I mean, you look at what the season that he's had, how he's played recently, getting into the winner's circle, a guy that's played around the world and is familiar with, golf, even though being a New Zealander, a Kiwi, being a guy that has played, plenty in Europe. To me, his game, like what we've seen this year on tour, and certainly when we were out at Osprey and the RBC in Toronto area, this seems like an opportunity for him to really step up and be in the mix. And I think having won recently gives him a far greater chance of doing it. He's got the game. He's playing well. 100-1, he stands out like a beacon when you look at this group of players. One guy that no one's talking about, I haven't bet him yet, but I do want to just give him some dap because of what a great season that he's had. And sometimes we see Americans that no one is talking about win the Open Championship. I will mention that Ben Griffin has been as consistent and solid as just about anybody this year.
Yep.
And has a very, very well-rounded game. He's also at 100-1. Min Woo's in that mix. Hell, Patrick Reed is in that mix. Not that I'm on Patrick Reed, but I mean, there's a number of guys at 100-1 or more that are looking at. And listen, this is a bit of a FOMO bet. Our good friend Tim Anderson from Pat's show, who's been on with me a number of times. Tim famously, big game hunting, took Wyndham Clark a couple years ago for the U.S. Open. Wyndham Clark, by the way, who is now banned from Oakmont after his terrible behavior at the U.S. Open. He is on JJ Spawn to go back-to-back. Speaking of back-to-back, Spawn, I don't know what he's got on, but I got to put a little something on JJ Spawn at 125-1. But there is plenty of intriguing names at greater than 100-1. We saw 150 come in just a couple weeks ago that you tipped off, Pat. So you've been the man to hit the longest bomb of the year, maybe ever since we've been doing picks together, to be honest. Who's getting the big swings for the fences when you finish out the outrights?
Well, you touched on one already. Ryan Fox, there was no way this guy was not going to land on my card. You laid it out pretty nicely. One little nugget I wanted to drop though, outside of last week. So since he has won, since his first win, that Myrtle Beach, when he hasn't finished outside of the top 30. Like this guy is having an unbelievable season. I'm glad you brought up. Everyone just sees New Zealander. Like, no, this guy plays. He play up until I think 2 years ago. This guy was a full-time DP World Tour player that would just come on to some of these other events at the PGA Tour. Like last year was his first full season on just the PGA Tour. He's played all over the place. He can play in bad weather. He can play link style. He absolutely mashes it off the tee. He can get a little bit squirrely, but we saw at Osprey when his driver started to go south on him, he was fine. He went to his 3-wood. He went to a longer iron, a driving iron. Like the guy's got a lot of tricks in his bag. And as we've seen over the years, you need some tricks in your bag. So I'm all in there. And you picked a Canadian for one of your other picks. I'm going to another Canadian here, Nick Taylor, 150-1. This guy always is. He's a winner. He every single year for the last 4 years, I think he's had at least one victory on tour. Mind you, they haven't all been elevated events. They certainly haven't been majors. This is a guy that's actually kind of struggled at majors. But look at his recent form. Nick Taylor's been playing some outstanding golf. And I think he is a guy that has proven year after year, despite what has changed with the landscape of golf, he has sacrificed distance off the tee. And I think that's going to pay dividends here. He can strike the ball well. And we talked about how putting maybe not going to play as big as a factor. You know what will, though? Knocking in some massive bombs from far out. That's what he can do. When his flat stick does get hot, then it gets really hot. And he is the guy that's got the gumption that come Sunday, if he's in a final pairing with Scottie Scheffler, if he's in a final pairing with Rory McIlroy, or if one of those guys like John Rahm is nipping at his heels, I don't think he cares. This is a guy that's got stones. This is a guy that has won these big moments. Look at the Canadian Open. You could argue, okay, outside of a major, for a Canadian to break that curse, no moment could be bigger. This guy's got what it takes. And at 150-1, I think it's just pure disrespect of Nick Taylor, considering how well this guy has been playing this year.
There are some wild names at huge numbers. And I would suggest that tonight, when you're done with this, you just dive into CoolBet and you can throw a toonie or a 5 on a few guys for a big number, with some players that I think legitimately have a chance to be there on Sunday afternoon. There can only be one winner. And again, if it is Rory McIlroy or Scottie Scheffler, you can get these numbers at about 2/3 under player specials on the market without Rory or Scottie Scheffler. As far as top finishes go, Pat, I'll just quickly mention Ryan Fox, because I do think Fox is a shrewd kind of top 20 bet. And I did jump on. For some of these things, no one dives deeper into the entire tournament. We kind of focus on who's going to win. Our buddy Pat Mayo has put together a nice little combo card at CoolBet, which is Ryan Fox to be top 20, Kay Wrighton to make the cut, and Tom McKibben to place top 40. That one's at almost 15-1. So I got a piece of that. But I am going to unload my 30% win boost in this category. And I'm looking straight at Xander Schauffele, who is my pick to win, to once again be in the top 10. Now, he's top 20 in his last 3 Open Championships, obviously won last year, has been top 10 in 2 of the 3 majors this year. He's 2-1, like plus 200 to be top 10. He's got the all-around game. I talked about Xander, and he is a guy that hunts down the field and is there on Sunday afternoon. So I would say my favorite play of the tournament, and the one that I'm going to back it with my 30% win boost, is Xander Schauffele in a top 10 position. And we talked about Ryan Fox a lot. Love that top 20. And you mentioned just how consistent he's been with top 30s. Let's get that a little closer up the board. Hell, preferably number one at 100-1. But I do think Fox in the top 20 position is a guy that could definitely fill in some benefits. I got a couple other for nationalities, but any top 10s or top 20s, top 5s that you want to throw out?
It's funny. It's a little bit scary as well because two of those there that you mentioned with Fox T20 and Xander top 10, because I didn't get a piece of Xander to win this thing because I feel like nobody except for yourself and a few others are talking about him. I had to get a piece of him. So that's the way I got him with the top 10. I also have another top 10 on John Rahm at plus 110. I'll use my profit boost on that one. And then Nick Taylor top 20 plus 350. Crazy. I would, even if that scares you a little bit, maybe buy up to the top 30 market, but I think this guy's going to be hanging around come Sunday. There's no doubt about that.
All right, let's get into a few of the exotics. I always love the groupings. Obviously they've got, groups A, B, C. You can dive in and, pick your favorites of those. But we've got our top nationalities. Of course, we can quickly touch on the top Canadian. There are 4 Canadians in the event. It's the usual suspects. Corey Connors is the favorite at plus 170. Taylor Pendrith is next up at plus 230. Nick Taylor's at plus 260. And Mac Hughes is plus 450. I like Connors as the top Canadian, obviously having picked him at 80-1. But I'm really high on Connors to be, in the mix for this tourney. And if I go to my made bets here, top rest of the world, which is a market, and I should pull it up right now, Pat, just to make sure that we've got it all. But the top rest of the world has Corey Connors at 11-1. And when you look at the other players in the mix that we're talking about, Neiman is 9-1 and would be the favorite from Liv. He has uber talented, has just never really done much in the major championships. I'll wait for him to do that. And then you got Corey Connors, and then a group that has, Jason Day, Decky, Adam Scott, Siwoo Kim, and Ryan Fox. I think Ryan Fox at 16-1 is another number that you could absolutely jump on. But if you like a piece of a Canadian, Corey Connors, I think, is a pretty safe bet, to be honest, at plus 170, unless your guy Nick Taylor gets on fuego. But it is an intriguing number, 11-1, top rest of the world for Corey Connors. The other ones that I have, top Scandinavian for Ludwig Åberg. We haven't talked a lot about Ludwig. I think that he's live here. He's live everywhere. When he steps on a golf course, he's got a chance to win. One of the Højgaards had a nice run at the Scottish Open, and they've had really strong years. But when you look at that group, to me, it really comes down to Åberg versus Vic. And Åberg's plus 260. Vic is plus 280. I'll ride with Ludwig, although we love both of those guys. So that's kind of where I'm looking at getting into it right now. If you want a safer, chalkier bet, Ludwig Åberg at minus 152 to be the top Swede, I think is some pretty good value, considering I'm not sure he has much competition. You got Svensson, Soderberg, Stenson, and Sandberg. And then one other interesting market that I haven't decided on yet, but top debutante, of course, U.S. Open champion J.J. Spaun, Scottish Open champion Chris Goddard, Harry Hall, who's actually had a great season and some pretty low numbers recently, and our guy Pendy, who's playing his first Open championship. He is at 9-1. But those are some of my favorites right now as far as the exotics on the board. What about you? You got any picks for the groups?
I certainly do. So for the exotics here, I guess this could maybe fall into this category, but I've got a couple of to make the cuts. We always talk about how the Open, one of the old boys stick around to the weekend. They maybe don't end up on the leaderboard by the end of Sunday, but on day one, day two, they're sniffing up there and everyone gets a nice laugh, similar to what we see at the Masters. Maybe not as much because that's just the tradition of those old guys playing forever. This is an old guy that's not that old, that's been making a lot of noise on the senior tour. I know we're in Northern Ireland. He's from the Republic of Ireland, but Paddy Harrington to make the cut at minus 105.
Yes, yes.
Paddy boy is going to be making some noise in Ireland this week. He has absolutely dominated the seniors tour this year. He has played Portrush before. He has played probably more links golf than anyone in this field. I absolutely love it. It's a fun bet. But the fact that you can get it at even money is even better for me. So I'm going to go there. Another fun one for me, and maybe this is a little bit of CoolBet pride. As you guys know, Estonia is the headquarters of CoolBet. That's where the CoolBet Open is going to be.
Big tourney next month.
Next month. Richard Tedder to make the cut plus 185. You might have saw this young kid, this amateur with blonde hair on your socials a few weeks ago, chip in to qualify for the Open. This guy is just an absolute electric factory. He was having a long drive competition with Bryson DeChambeau at the range yesterday.
I saw that.
This is this kid. This kid, you want to talk about gumption. You want to talk about swagger. This kid is out there having the time of his life. He's got absolutely zero pressure on him. There's about like 12 golf courses on the entire country of Estonia. He is the first Estonian-born player to qualify for the Open. He is playing for house money. This guy is already a living legend in this country. He's going to be a great player. He's an amateur. Like, this is a guy I think we actually really have to keep an eye out for. If he can keep it straight, yesterday, and this is what I love, like you can follow along with the range. He was the longest driver on the range yesterday, not just the longest drive. On average, this guy ropes the ball. This guy is a lot of fun. Plus 185 probably has been bet down a little bit because of all the Estonians at CoolBet hammering Tedder to make the cut. But I've got him plus 185. Top rest of the world. I'm sorry. I'm going head to head with you. I've got Ryan Fox at 16-1. And this one here, Huss, is I think my favorite of them all. Someone explain this to me. I don't get it. So you go to these groups, Group A, Group B, basically ties together all the guys that are around the same odds. Go down to Group J. The group features Tony Finau, Daniel Berger, Kim, and Sung Jae. And, of course, Taylor Pendrith. Taylor Pendrith is plus 350 in this group, and I do not know how. When you look at the recent form of all these guys, I know Tony's a friend of the program. We love betting on Tony Finau. He is not playing like what he was. Daniel Berger at the start of the year was on every Tom, Dick, and Harry's betting card. But what has this guy done this year? Everyone's waiting for him. Tom Kim, like we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. What has happened to Tom Kim? He is not the same player at all. And Sung Jae kind of showed some flashes here and there at a couple of tournaments. This guy isn't the same Sung Jae. Taylor Pendrith has been playing pretty solid ball. And I think I know it's his first test at the Open here, but I think he's got some skill sets. If he can keep his driver in the fairway, and if he can get some creative, maybe taking away the driver, using his long iron, using his 3-wood instead, if he can keep it within the fairway, I actually think this is a great golf course for Pendy. And the fact that you're getting him at plus 350 against 4 other guys that are looking and searching for their game, he's by far the best player as of late in this group.
All right, before we're done, we got to put together a little WST parlay for the people. If you do go to the combo cards right now, there's a bunch of options. A wild super boost with Scheffler, DeChambeau, Rahm, and Rory to make the cut at boosted to minus 106. We've got to make the cut parlay for Nick Taylor, Connors, and Pendy at plus 313. The Greggy Golf Special is a cut special. Taylor, Henley, Fox, Hovland, Rory, boosted to plus 447. There's a Big Dogs parlay, former champions, and then the PMA Championship Special, the one that I mentioned before, just under 15 to 1 with Ryan Fox. And listen, Ryan Fox is a guy that I would have no issue putting in our parlay as a guy that we both like, Patty. That might be a nice little place to start if we want to throw him on a top 20. I certainly like Xander Schauffele. I mean, I would be fine with going Xander top 10, but if we want to be a little more conservative, Xander's plus money at top 20. From your side of things, we've talked about Fox. The John Rahm top 20 is minus 182. It's a little chalky. I guess we could get aggressive if you wanted to do and fire him in a top 10. But where are you thinking we add to the group to put this sucker together and try and get a winner?
Well, no brainer. If I've got X-Man to finish top 10, I mean, that's a no brainer for top 20. I think I've spent about 75% of my monologue here, really glazing Ryan Fox. So I have no problem putting him in there. We both talked pretty highly about Sepp Straka. And as we've always talked over the last year and a half, nobody cashes more top 20 tickets than Sepp Straka himself. Maybe we go Straka top 20. I don't know.
Straka, Fox, Xander?
I think so. I think that might be the play.
Let's lock that in. Let's not complicate this thing. These are the guys that we like. We'll put that in. We'll get that up in the combo cards very shortly.
I'm all in on Harrington to make that cut. If you want to get a little more aggressive, for him to finish in the top 40, and the cut is a lot smaller here at the Open than most majors and most tournaments. For him to finish in the top 40, plus 220. So you might actually get a better number for him, because if he's going to make the cut, he's probably going to be sniffing in that 40 mark anyways. So get a little bit of better number, get him at plus 220.
Now, folks, of course, couple things to keep in mind. You got to get your bets in Wednesday night, or because it's going to start early in the morning. So I would not wait. Get on over to CoolBet and make sure that you're locked and loaded. Check out all the combo cards if you want to jump in on those. Patty, this is a major. We will have live betting for the Open Championship, I'd imagine, certainly as we get into the final rounds, and then completely rejigged odds. And you kind of touched on it. If you're hesitant to jump on Rory or Scottie early at the numbers, but if they're in the mix, there'll be a lot of guys you might be able to get a better number going into day 2 or going into day 3. There's going to be a lot going on, and I would say a lot of volatility on that live market. So if you want to wait, you can also take a look at that really throughout the tournament and jump in whenever you want.
Yeah, it's, that's the beauty of this tournament as well. We have full live betting at CoolBet this week. You'll also have some like head-to-head options, live betting as well. I know it's a little trickier with the time change. I'll tell you though, I've already set my alarm. I'm getting up at 4:00. That's when TSN's coverage starts. Ooh. So it'll be an early morning for me. Probably, take the over on cups of coffee that I'm going to be having on Thursday and on Friday, but lots and lots of betting options, whether it's live, beforehand, after rounds. Again, if you're kind of nervous, that's the other thing too. It doesn't have to be right away. You don't have to bet it right away, but after each round, the odds will also be reset as well. And I think that's where you can really sink your teeth in to some serious value.
One thing that I hadn't done yet is place a first round leader bet to conclude. I'm just looking at Scheffler 14 to 1. I mean, that might be an interesting way to go. He often will come right out of the gate smoking. Everyone else is over 20, and you got Rory and Rahm at 22, and then Ludwig at 33. I think I'm going to touch JT at 50 to 1 for the first round leader.
Ooh,
going on.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on the first round, or is that just more of a dart?
I mean, it's usually a dart, but I'll throw a couple out there. I don't have the prices in front of me,
I
but from
do.
what I can think, what's Justin Rose's number for first round leader?
Rosie and Rose, we all remember what he did.
Oh yes, my wallet remembers too.
Yeah, I'm sure he's right there at 50 as well.
Okay. I mean, you know what? I'll go Rose. I'm going to say Rose, first round leader. And let's go. I mean, I've been doing all show Fox. Let's go Fox, first round leader as well.
Yeah, where's Ryan Fox? Yeah, Fox 66 to 1. So listen, you want a little fun. And again, there's full matchups for tomorrow. I usually wait till we see what happens in round 1 to get into the matchups, but the card's pretty full already because it is, of course, the final major of the year. Royal Portrush early tomorrow morning, folks. It'll be on TSN. Whenever you get up, open up one eye, then both, turn on that television, and you'll be locked in. And again, hit coolbet.com throughout the week. Don't forget to use your 30% profit boost on your favorite bet of the year and keep your eyes peeled to the combo cards for some great boosted parlays for some of your favorite players. Patty, we're not done WST winners for the year for golf because, of course, we do have the Ryder Cup coming up. We should probably do something before the FedEx Cup playoffs as well. But let's face it, when we're talking about individuals, this is the biggest event that we're going to have until the Players and the Masters next year. So you've had an unbelievable year. I haven't been too bad, but you've set the bar
Yes,
very
yeah.
high. Let's finish strong, and good luck with the picks, and good luck to all of you with your picks for the 153rd Open Championship at Royal Portrush. Pat, have a good one, and let's get it.